Hey, I'm Brody, and this is part 4 of trying to build a Lefty folding knife. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to stay tuned for the rest of this build and all of our upcoming projects. And please drop a like, it helps the channel out, and let's get started. I was working on test fitting the knife, and I noticed that back here, the liners and scales wanted to close up. So I think I'm going to have to make a spine for this. And I thought it would be really cool to make it out of brass. And Bits kindly sent over 2 endmills for brass, one with a 3/8 inch length of cut and one with a 1 inch length of cut. They're both 1/4 inch and have 3 flutes. I'm super excited to go try these out, so let's go. That was the first cut in the brass, and it actually went very smooth. I was really conservative on all my settings, and one of the biggest things when cutting with a new medium is just to take as many observations as possible. So something that I observed is that the CNC, it sounded really smooth. It didn't sound like the bit was vibrating a lot, and there was a lot of chatter. And another thing, a bunch of the chips were on my shirt, but the chips are like super nice. They're just long lines, and so really nice chips were forming, and it sounded nice when it was cutting. So I think I'm going to try to up the feed rate and take a deeper pass. The first pass I took was 20 thousandths of an inch deep. Now I'm going to try 50 thousandths of an inch deep with the same feed and plunge rate. So let's try that. I don't know if the camera could hear it, but there was a little bit of chatter at the end of the cut when I was plunging here for the next pass. So I think 0.05 is a really good pass step. So now I'm going to try upping the feed rate to cut a little faster. Another thing is that my step over is at 20%, and that's pretty good. I'm just going to leave the step over as it is. I'm working in a spire, and one cool thing you can do to save you from doing math is I'm going to try doing these feeds and speeds at 150%. So all I need to do is, these are my current 15 inches per minute on the feed, and my plunge rate's 12 inches per minute. I can just do times 1.5 equals 22.5 inches per minute is going to be the feed, and 12.5 times 1.5 is 18 inches per minute is my plunge. So now I'm going to try these. This cutter is just not having a problem, so I'm going to do a little bit more testing until I hear some chattering or the cut quality isn't as nice, and then I'm going to back it down a little bit, so let's do that. I did another test running at 30 inches per minute, and that shattered a little bit in the corners. So I just bumped it down to 28 inches per minute for the feed rate and 25, I think, for the plunge rate. And so now I'm going to try just cutting up the spine. I have 4 tool pass. First, we got to thickness this. This is at 1/4 inch. I need it down to 88 thousandths. And then I'm going to use a V-bit to mark some hole locations or drilling. And then I have 2 profile tool paths. The first one is going to cut a little outside of the line, and it's not going to cut all the way down, so that's sort of like a clearance. I'm going to onion skin it. And then the second profile is going to cut on the line. I left like 10 thousandths, so she's going to clean up that 10 thousandths on the sides, and it's going to cut all the way through. So that should leave a super nice finish. And also, I made the ramp ends, I made those on the inside of the knife, so if there is any lines from the ramp in, or when the bit leaves the piece, you won't see it on the outside of the knife. So this first piece is done, all cut out. Now I'm gonna go drill the holes and we can try test fitting it. All right, so a few things. This part broke when I tried to drill it. I knew that there was gonna not be much material, but I didn't expect it was gonna break, but it did. So I think I'm either going to revise it by trying to add some more material on the bottom, or I might be able to just get rid of the whole hole together and just end it either before this or just go over the top of it. And another thing is these holes were from the original location before I added the counter bores, so these are in the wrong spot, and I'm going to redo it, but I think I'm going to cut out a template for the blade just so that I can see, or no, I can use the one in the software. So use the one in the software to simulate the blade and redesign this and recut it. Another thing, it was also too close to the edge, so it got cut off on the front side. So I'm going to also reposition it so it's going the long way. One more thing, also, this was also undersized. I designed it to be 88 thou, and it came out at 75. So I'm just going to, I think I'm going to double check all the depths and stuff, but it might be better to reference off the spoil board rather than the machine surface. So let's go. So, if I'm being honest, I haven't worked on this in a few weeks, but I'm back and ready to start wrapping this thing up. So what I think happened is on the spine, I had 3 holes, but there was just not enough material here, and it caught on the drill press and broke. So I modified the design to look like this, and so there's only 2 holes, and it just ends there before the 3rd hole. And I was also trying to do a detail on this, and I think I'm going to do this sort of like triangular one. So I'm going to do that. I need to cut the lock in the liner, and we can start wrapping this thing up. I'm going to make a list of all the things I need to finish, and I can start scratching things off that list. Alright, now I have a list, and I just ordered some steel for the blade, so I'm going to refrain from working on the spine because the thickness of the blade might be different. I'm going to put that aside, and I think I'm going to start working on the liners. Get these finished being ground. I'll go in with the Dremel, finish this, and I'll get the lock cut into this. Let's go. Alright, the next thing I need to do is make a sort of jig to get the sides of the liners nice and flat and parallel. So I'm going to make a jig that'll hold some sandpaper and I can sort of surface grind them.